Tell me, where did you grow up?
I was born and I grew up in Singapore, but I spent a big part of my time overseas because of my work. We relocated and lived in the UK, in Hong Kong for many years before coming back to Singapore a couple of years back. Yeah, so deep down Singaporean, but maybe more cosmopolitan because of that.
What were you like as a kid growing up?
I was very outgoing, not a lot of friends, or rather a lot of friends, but not a lot of close friends. And I tend to be someone who do the things I like. So if I enjoy doing something, I'll do with or without my friends, that kind of thing. So I lead a very independent life, I would say.
Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted?
I actually did a test, one of those personality tests, and it came out that I was like extreme extrovert, 9, 10, like off the chart, and I was like, really? Yeah. Yeah, that probably is quite true.
Do you have any hobbies?
Not really, I would say, but the one thing that really stayed with me for all this time is I really like beautiful things. Cars, furnitures, artwork, paintings, watches, I just have an eye that I enjoy such things, so I like to look at them. And yeah, it's not necessarily a man thing. A lot of people say watches are man things, but I like furniture. I like to go furniture shops. I like to look at interior designs, how houses are designed. Just the beauty and the design that goes behind it really intrigued me. Yeah, so that probably is my hobby.
Have you collected anything?
I wish I have, because a lot of those things are expensive. Probably I spend the most amount of money on my watches. At one stage, I was really into Swatch when it was really the hype. And I have over 400, 500 pieces of Swatch. Very proud of it, but then when the prices start to, or rather everything start to get out of fashion, and I'm stuck with a lot of watches that I have to keep spending time changing the batteries. So the hobby became quite painful, changing batteries. Imagine every 2 years I have to spend hours changing the batteries. Yeah. Yes, I have a younger sister. Yeah, very nice person, very warm, very outgoing, but at the same time much more caring than me. I wish I'm much more like her in terms of caring. Yeah, I love her. She's a wonderful person. Maybe from young, I wish I've spent more time to take care of her because she was much younger than me. Like I said, I was very independent, so I had my own friends, so she's kind of like on her own. It was only in the last couple of years that I realized, maybe I could have been a much better brother when she's growing up. So I try to make up for it now as much as I can. I was closer with my mom from young because my dad started working overseas on overseas assignment when I was 10 years old. And that went on for more than 10 years, so I only see him 3 times a year when he's back for a couple of weeks. So that end up I grow closer to my mother because of that. And of course I take up a lot of her personality because of that, rather than my dad. Yeah, so it's one of those things that I wish I had able to spend more time with him. One of my biggest regret was not telling him I love him. He was a very loving father, so when he's home, he will hug me, from young. But eventually I reached an age where I'm like, don't do this, So he was very loving, as much as a dad can be, but because of the lack of time and intimacy, so I felt quite distant from him without realizing. It was only when he passed away that I realized, I have never told him I love him. So that was my biggest regret for many years. It took me maybe 10 years to get out of this emotion, because when I used to be able to not talk about him. I used to not be able to talk about him. When I mention his name, I will start bawling. So it took me a long time to be healed out of that. The one advice I would tell anyone now is, tell your parents you love them, really, even if it's just once in your life. Don't live this regret that I have. No, he doesn't give advice, so he's just trying to love. He's a very jovial person, very optimistic, and always telling dad jokes. Maybe a lot of my dad jokes now that my daughter complained about came from there. My mom's advice would be study hard or you're going to, that kind of typical Chinese parents, like what we always, my son would joke that maybe once I even mentioned something like him, I say, if you don't study well, you're going to be a rubbish truck driver, that kind of upbringing. Yeah, so my mom is not a very emotional person, unlike my dad. So she tends to be quite cool and prim and proper, stiff upper lip, that kind of person. So I don't have that intimacy with her, even though I spend a lot more time with her. She just take care of the stuff, and then I kind of take care of myself. Yeah. So I grew up to be very independent because of that. My parents never really put a demand on me that I have to be this. Some parents say you have to be a lawyer, a doctor. They never. They just let me. And from young, I'm very independent. So I do my own planning, how I should study, how much time I should spend on my homework. I plan it all by myself. And I still remember that my ambition, the teacher would say, what's your ambition when you grow up? I still remember my first ambition was to make $10,000 a month. That was the ambition, whatever job, whatever it takes. Which sounds, it may be good for some people, but actually it became a trap. So when I hit 10,000, I wasn't happy. I wanted 15,000. When I hit it, I wasn't happy. So it became a dream, a passion that can never be fulfilled. You can never get a satisfaction. Yeah, so I'm glad I'm no longer into that mode now. Yeah, so yeah, if you have an ambition, don't choose that. I've done a couple of jobs, but primarily I'm always been in operations, supply chain type of roles, different roles up and down. I work for a couple of companies, but I would use the word job hop, but not in the sense of hopping from one company to another. I will be in a company, the same company, and then be in a role for 1 year to 2 years, and then I will be reassigned to another role within the company in another department or another division to sort things out. So I became the fix-it person in that sense, that move. So yeah, so my roles has always been like that. So I'm quite glad that I'm in a company, some as long as 10 years, but I've done like 4 different roles in that 10 years in that company. So it makes the job interesting rather than the same old boring 8 to 6, that kind of roles. Yeah. My first job was a management trainee for a company that I went to the UK. The factory is actually very near Windsor, so we rented an apartment to the Windsor Castle, so the Queen was my neighbor. But unfortunately, she had no time for tea with me. Yeah, she will regret not having tea with me. Also, I kind of almost finished my trainee program, and there was a role for the company in Hong Kong to run the Asia Pacific. So they moved me back into Asia, but it was based out of Hong Kong because the headquarters for Asia was up in Hong Kong. So I was in Hong Kong doing the supply planning for all the shipments across Asia. I would say that was probably the most difficult time of my entire career. Not so much a career, because my wife was with me. We got married straight after graduation, and we went to the UK. She was with me for 2 years. Then we went to Hong Kong. But in Hong Kong, it was a really long, tiring job, because the company has a philosophy. Is that they will pay you 3 persons' salary to do 2 persons. They'll pay you 2 persons' salary to do 3 persons' job. So they pay really high, the top 10% bracket, but a lot of responsibilities. So in Hong Kong, we have a very small team, but we cover a lot. And I will start work at 7:30 in the morning, even though officially it starts at 9. And then I don't leave work till 10, 11 at night, every day, literally every day. Sunday was maybe half a day off. And that went on for a year and a half, almost 2 years. So for my wife, it was difficult because she wasn't working. She couldn't, in Hong Kong, that's the first time she's there. And we just had our first child, our daughter Nicole. So it became really difficult for her because she's all alone in a very small apartment, 480 square feet, I still remember. And because she don't speak Cantonese at that time, she couldn't click with the neighbors. And we had a baby, and there was no parent from the other childcare, that kind of thing, and not at that age yet. So she was really alone in the apartment the whole time, just waiting for me to come home. But then I would come up very late. So that was really probably the worst time in terms of, not just for me, the job. I enjoyed the job, right? But looking back, that I couldn't have that balance of life. It was so bad that I remember Chinese New Year. The first day of Chinese New Year, I would go into work, and my wife would carry my daughter into work, and she would sit in the conference room and watch TV waiting for me to finish work. That was how we spent Chinese New Year. Yeah, it was tough, yeah, looking back. I then moved back to Singapore when they moved the office down to Singapore. So the work hours was still similar, maybe slightly better, because we increased the headcount. But the biggest difference was my wife is now back at home in Singapore. So she has her siblings, her parents that she could go and spend time with, instead of just waiting for me, And in a way, I'm glad. Yeah. So we came back to Singapore, worked here for a couple of years, and eventually I changed company, worked for a couple of years, and then again, now the new company, after a few years in Singapore, says, would you like to go to Hong Kong to manage our China production facilities there? So I asked my wife, and she said, Hong Kong? No. Yeah, but then I assure her it's very different now. It's very different now that we have children, so I have my son as well. And then they're going to school, so there's more such activities. And there's also, she also get to know some people from church. So it was much better. And this time around, I'm going as a full expatriate instead of a management trainee. So I get much bigger allowance with a much bigger apartment, sea view, So it was a total transformation. And this time around, she actually loved it. So we love Hong Kong so much that actually we didn't want to leave Hong Kong when we have to leave to come back to Singapore. Yeah, so we always say within a family, when we have the opportunity, we want to go back again because it was really nice living there.
How are your kids now? What are they doing?
They're all grown up now. They both are married. My son and my daughter, they are married. So it's always a joy. I wouldn't say relief, but it's a joy, that they have found that there are families to start. And so from the experience that I have, how I did not do well as a husband, as a father, I will impart that to them. And I'm glad my children, they're very loving. They take after the mother a lot more than me, and that I'm really glad. Yeah.
Why are you so passionate about what you do?
My personality is like this. If I believe in something or I really enjoy something, I will spend a lot of time to learn about it, to kind of know exactly what it does, what's behind it, and then somehow it just once you do that, somehow it just become part of you. Yeah. So, for example, I mentioned about my Swatch collection. So I reached a point where I know. So my 500 Swatch watches is only a fraction of the total amount of Swatch universe. And I can name you every single model, the name, the year, and the market price. It was literally crazy like that. Realize that maybe it's good to be to drive for excellence, but it's not good to be a perfectionist. So that was what I was. So then I realized, some things I just need to reach a point where it's enjoyable is enough. Going beyond was really bad. So I tell you how bad it was back then. There was a limited edition Swatch being launched that I really wanted to get. And as you know, in those days, you have to long queue, right? People go and queue and get it because you sell it on the resale market. But I wanted it for myself. So I dragged my pregnant wife in Hong Kong to go and queue for hours for the watch. And looking back now, I would have smacked myself, for doing that. Yes, still married. Actually, she passed away. But in my heart, we are in eternal couple. Yeah, so I will see her when it's time for me to see her again.
What do you love most about her?
Somehow humans are like that, or most of us are like that. We don't appreciate what we have. And when it's no longer there, then you start to appreciate, especially relationships. Yeah, so when I was with her, I know she's really good, but I never kind of say it's A, B, C, D, E that I appreciate about her, and most men are like that. They pay lip service, and in a typical relationship, right? I'm one of them, and I'm guilty of using jobs as my excuse. Or I'm busy at work, I got a deadline to finish, I'm tired, or did I not take you out last week already? Those type of excuses. It's always thinking, oh, I'll make it up to you. And then when we have fights like this, we will say, don't you know that I work so hard for you? That kind of, you watch it on TV drama, right? Excuses. They're all excuses. Now looking back, I realize how foolish I was. I should have spent a lot more time, should have give her more surprises, more presents. She's a present person, but I'm not. I'm not comfortable when people give me presents, but she is, right? So because of that, I tend to be more doing what I like or does not like rather than her. So looking back, she's really amazing. She's a really amazing wife, amazing mother, amazing siblings, amazing daughter-in-law. And it was tough for her, and looking back, I realized that I should have been there to make it easier for her, but I did not. So I reckon I miss her, but it's one of those things where I look forward to the day that I'll see her again. I share because I want to encourage every couple. Don't take the other person for granted. Because when it's not like you buy a car and then you never appreciate your car and then you sell it. You can always buy a similar model back, not necessarily the same car, right? But relationships are different. When it's gone, you can't replace relationships. A specific year, but what I'm really proud of is how my children has grown up and how they have taken after their mother. Fortunately, not me, not taking after me. How they've taken over, taken to be much like their mother in the way they love, in the way they appreciate relationship, in the way that they will go out of their way for their friends and relationship that is really important for them, which I never understood. I never understood because I was so self-focused most of the time. And I'm learning that, right? So I'm learning not just from my wife now, but I'm learning from my children. So I'm really proud of how they have grown up to be.
Why did you choose to be an Oz citizen? What is it about that Oz that resonated with you the most?
When I started looking at Oz, it started off as purely as an investment, like most crypto projects. And I don't invest in a lot of crypto projects, but Oz really stand out because in terms of investment, right? I mean, typical investment, not necessarily crypto investment. For me, there's three elements to really look at. The first one is a big one. Is it a scam? They're everywhere now, right? Is it a scam? And the next question I ask myself when I look at it is, will the team have the capability to deliver what they promise? The technical, the software, the systems, the way to run it, can they deliver? And then the third one is, okay, not a scam, everything is delivered. Is there a demand for it? You can have the best product in the world, best design, but if there's no demand, it still sits on the shelf, right? And from an investment perspective, if there's no demand, then it's worthless, right? So when I started looking at Oz, it was, it's a government-linked project. It's working with the Philippine government, so thick. I find it on the government official website, so it can't be a scam. The next thing is the team has already put together something that works. There are people who has actually used the system to apply for residency and business license, and it's working. Right? So we know it works. So then the question is there a demand? Then I look at what it offers, the residency, the business license, the tax-free living. Sure, there's such demand. There's a lot of such demand going around, right? Different business, different individual. So that's what attracted me to Oz. So I participated in Oz, and as I go deeper into Oz, I realized, oh, actually, it's not just the Philippines. It's actually able to expand as more alternative come. And for someone like me who has lived in different countries and enjoy the lifestyle and different lifestyle rather than just Singapore. Singapore is great. It's lovely. Too hot, and after visiting all the shopping mall on the weekend, you are kind of doing the same thing over again, right? So it's quite restrictive. So having lived in the UK, live in Hong Kong, where there's country parks, where in Hong Kong we'll go out to the sea and the weather has 4 seasons, a lot more options. So we quite enjoy that kind of I quite enjoy that kind of a lifestyle where there are alternatives. So the Oz living is attractive in a sense that it gives me this opportunity to say, okay, maybe I can live in the Philippines for a period of time, and then, oh, I want to try out Spain. Let's say if Spain comes on, then I can use the Oz system to go to Spain and live for a couple of years, and then Puerto Rico, you know. So that lifestyle is something that is interesting because I've experienced it. So that's what makes it exciting for me as part of this. Yeah, I believe in it. I think that set Oz apart from other similar programs. There are many similar programs like this. You can go to Cayman Island, you can get tax advantage set up companies, BVI, all those things, and a lot of residency programs around the world offer, whether Greece or Turkey or even Portugal, that all these are there. But I think the biggest difference for Oz is the fact that as more and more of the economic zones, the ecozone cities and countries come in, it gives a very easy and flexible option of switching, like I said, right? I want to live here for a couple of years and a new place came out, let's go and try it out. I have the Oz vision allows me to be able to move very quickly, very easily, instead of having my assets locked down in a typical program that takes a long time to unwind. So I think that flexibility of a lifestyle gives me that options that I can choose to pursue or not. And of course, given that Oz is still fairly new and that things are still evolving, I think more unique features will appear. Maybe not necessarily taking up residency, maybe the ability to travel there is a lot easier, for example. So it really depends on what are the terms negotiated with the city government of those ecozones that Oz is able to come together. Last but not least, because Oz is now run as a decentralized autonomous organization, so which means that I now have a voice. I can actually vote and say I would like to have this feature, or no, I don't agree with that, and that makes it interesting. I think it's getting more and more important in this world to have a voice, to have our voice heard. Live your life with a passion. I mean, you hear this all the time, but really I do mean it. Life, day by day, they go past very fast. So whether is it passion in something you want to pursue, or passion in really spending time with your family and really letting them know that you love them, especially for Asian families, it's not easy to say, I love you. Yeah, so, live with a passion. There's nothing weird about it, showing love. So I would say, live with a passion to love, live with a passion to pursue what you believe in. Don't live with regrets, like some of the regrets I have, but I can't unwind time, so I can only do more going ahead with the people that I can still spend time with. So I think that will be the wisdom I can impart.